The brand new firmware update released for the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx realizes major improvements for the in-body stabilization, autofocus performance, and even burst photography modes. Starting with the new in-body image stabilization performance, the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx are now taking better advantage of the active IS technology found from the G9 Mark II. Now, the in-body image stabilization is being improved in two major ways. First off, users have the ability to select two levels of electronic stabilization, both standard and high. Both of these modes are taking advantage of our perspective distortion correction. This new perspective distortion compensation allows users to activate the high-powered EIS option for correcting phenomenon where straight lines start to get distorted while the camera's in movement. This option will prove great usability for users that are in situations where fast, handheld movement is required with smooth results. Now shifting to burst photography improvements. The S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx are receiving the highly acclaimed pre-burst functionality that was released with the G9 Mark II. Within the S5 Mark II and the Mark IIx, users will be able to take advantage of that 30 frames per second burst mode already on the cameras for both autofocus single and autofocus continuous, while also now applying the pre-burst functionality, which gives you an option for a half-second, 1 second, or 1.5 second pre-burst of stills. Now, these pre-bursts of stills are captured before the shutter is completely pressed, and it provides users the ability to capture both RAW and JPEG stills for maximum flexibility and that perfect opportunity to never miss the moment. Now, to give users better choices while working in the field, the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx are also receiving autofocus detection improvements that were introduced with the G9 Mark II. These improvements are including a refinement to the human detection option, which produces more accurate detection for subjects like the human body, head, face, and eyes, while also introducing the brand new animal eye detection. The user interface for these detection options has also been unified with the experience found from the G9 Mark II. Users can choose to recognize various subjects separately instead of using one combined detection set of algorithms for everything. In addition to the human eye, face, and body detection, as well as the animal eye detection, the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx will also be receiving the brand new car and motorcycle detection that was released with the G9 Mark II, further expanding the detection and autofocus confidence available on the Lumix new ecosystem. Another great feature that's been added in with this new firmware is the ability to record with proxy files. Now, proxy files within the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx can be enabled throughout various different recording functions and even be filtered when you go into the menu so that you're only seeing the actual available options that proxy is relevant to. When it comes to actually recording with proxy files, you'll be able to select 3 different versions of proxy. You'll have a high, a medium, and a low. And the high option and medium option will both be in 1080p 420 10-bit, while the low option will be in 420 8-bit at 720p. Now, Panasonic Lumix has had a long history of providing free firmware updates that aim to enhance the usability of our cameras throughout the years. This new suite of firmware updates added for the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx are a continuation of our philosophy of continual improvement within the Lumix line. But our improvements to the Lumix line of cameras doesn't stop at the autofocus and stabilization improvements. Let's discuss some of the other features that have been added in with this brand new firmware update for the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIx.